All right, awesome. Cool, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Office Hours. With us, we have Luke and Santosh from the communities joining, and we have Abhinav, Nidhi, Confidence, and Akshay from the Appsmith team. So Abhinav, I think you were part of our A-Force last week. So for those of you who don't know, A-Force is the team that we have internally in Appsmith that mans the Discord channel, replies to all the support requests, basically helps out the community. So Abhinav was, on the A-Force team, and Abhinav, could you just, maybe tell us a bit about, some of the issues that we've actually solved for the community, as well as, some of the issues that we saw surface from the community that still don't have a resolution. Maybe we can just talk about those.
Sure. Thanks, Nikhil. I would like to start with the things that we have worked on over the past week and things that would be available in the next upcoming releases in the future, in the coming few weeks. So let me start by talking about those, and I'll give a small demo of what we have done so far, talk about some of the issues as well, which we have fixed, and eventually get into the top issues that were reported by the community over the past week.
Awesome.
So let me just get started by sharing my Chrome. Okay, so one of the common issues that users have faced so far is about the date picker. When we change the formats of the selected date, sometimes we used to get a value which was incorrect. And the reason for this was the underlying date that we used to store was not in a format that had the complete information of the original date. So we are fixing that with the upcoming Datepicker 2. That's the newer version of the Datepicker. Users will be able to use this new Datepicker in their future applications once this is released. So let me demonstrate what we have so far in the Datepicker. So over here, as you can see, I have selected a date picker, which is the latest date picker that we have. I've selected the date format and the default date. Now, if you notice this container, we have the selected date, which is an ISO string, and this one, which has the formatted date, which is the format which was selected in the date picker. So if I change the format, you can see the formatted date change, but the selected date always remains the same. This gives the users a way to standardize the date format. So in case they would like to change the date into a particular format of their liking, or simply use the ISO string itself, they can select use selected date. So the binding for this is obviously datepicker.selected date, and for this would be datepicker.formatted date.
Awesome. And Abhinav, with this change, users sort of have to use this new date picker because
yes.
This is not a backward compatible change. So existing date pickers are not going to get updated.
Yes.
People have to actually delete their existing date picker and go ahead and adopt the new date picker. Yeah,
that's correct. Right. So since this is not backward compatible, all the new date pickers that users would start using in the upcoming releases, they will be the new date picker, but obviously the ones that are already available in the previous applications would need to be migrated in case they are facing issues in their date pickers.
Right. And we're going to communicate this in our release notes. So we're going to send emails around this. We're going to let people know that they should be migrating their date pickers. But
yes,
don't get to it. That's all right. The current instances will keep running for a while. Awesome. Right. Thanks, Abhinav. Maybe you could go on to the next issue.
The next one is about the upcoming list widget. Now, one of the issues that many of our users have faced was that in case they have a list of objects, they would like to dynamically generate widgets based on the information that they have from an API or some other data. For this, to address this particular issue, we are working on the list widget. Now, the list widget works this way. Right now, you don't see any more information at the bottom because this is something that will be available in the view mode. We are still working on it. This is a work in progress. As you can see, I have created a small template here. So the moment you drag a list widget, you should be able to see a template already available, which you can modify. So let me just continue working on this widget, demonstrating what it can do. So the list widget is basically like a container which has which replicates a particular template as many times as your array provides your information, the grid items, the number of grid items that you have provides. So over here we have 1,000 entries of the same object just for demo purposes, and these have been bound to each of these information that is available in the object: the first name, the last name, the avatar. So let me try and drag a text widget here and bind it to the email as well. So that will be current item dot email.
So this means that every single template can be custom configured just like a container, and it will allow users to sort of show groups of these items together. And today it's a list, but I think like in the future it can also be like become like a grid as well, right?
Yes. So right now it's one dimensional. It's just a vertical list, but in the future we are planning upgrades to this that will allow for two-dimensional grids as well.
Awesome. I think that'll give us like a lot of flexibility.
One of the core issues that challenges we had when developing it was the performance. So as you can see, I have mentioned 1,000 entries here, and we'll have to look at what it performs, how it performs in the view mode. So in the view mode, as you can see, it replicated all of our 1,000 entries. The scrolling is smooth. We can easily navigate 1,000 entries. So overall, we are talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5,000 widgets rendered at the same time. So this is another upcoming feature, a new list widget that will allow users to create templates that can be replicated and dynamically generate these widgets.
Awesome. Yeah, this is the feature I'm most excited about.
So this is a very interesting feature that we have worked on in the team. Moving on, now we have the chart widget. So there's a minor improvement in the chart widget where some users were wondering whether we can perform actions when the user selects a particular chart data point. So for this, we have a new entry called new trigger property called the on data point click, in which we can add our own custom actions based on the information. The information for the selected data point is available in chart, the chart name dot selected data point, and we have the XY coordinates here. So I can just demonstrate it to you. Once we click on this, we see the notification coming up regarding which data point was clicked. So this is just a simple demonstration, but obviously the opportunities to use this are endless.
Yeah, one of like the core reasons why I really wanted this was to just be able to create drill down views. When you have aggregate information inside a chart, a lot of times you just want to click on the bar and have like a drill down view, a modal pop up with more information, or another chart that populates based on the data point that you've selected. So yeah, this is going to like make charting on Appsmith really, really powerful. This along with all of the new charts we're adding, yeah, it's going to make it really, really useful to have aggregate data on Appsmith.
Cool. Moving on, we have the next feature. So another community issue that came up multiple times was that the modal widget was not discoverable. So the earlier way of adding a modal was to basically go to a trigger and then select a modal or create a modal when we want to open up those modal. So as you can see here, we have to create a modal from this, and this was not very discoverable. Most people, some of our users actually did not even realize that there was a modal widget out there. So to resolve this issue, what we have done is we have introduced the modal widget on the widget list on the left. So now users can simply drag and drop a modal widget that will show the modal widget right there. Obviously, to access this modal widget, it's all available in the Entity Explorer on the left. So they can perform actions on the modal widget, like edit the name, delete from the Entity Explorer. So it's not obscured once you drag and drop it into the canvas.
Yeah. And I think we have a lot more enhancements coming up for the modal widget, right? We're going to allow people to resize it and just position it and just also reset it as well. So a lot of very cool modal features are also coming up soon.
That's correct. So this was a recurring topic in our discussions with our users last week. So we have compiled a whole list of issues that we can resolve in the modal widget that we can pick up as a project. I'll talk about it in a while, just after I demo the other two features that I have in the pipeline right now. So coming to the table widget, I believe Nikhil had already discussed this in the past office hours. Here I want to particularly talk about one issue which our users were talking about in Discord over the past week, which was the ability to add custom actions in each of these buttons over here on the table. So the new table widget provides a lot of customizable features. And as you can see, this action is actually a custom column that I had created, which we can delete. The rest are something that the data provides, and those are technically called the primary columns in our system. So in this action column, I can demonstrate what it does. So this is a button type. We have multiple types here. As you might notice, we have moved the information from the headers in the table to the property pane, so that the developers can make sure that what they see is what their users see in the table widget particularly. And over here, as you can see, we have bound the label, the button color, and the on-click actions for each of these buttons to customize them appropriately. Over here, I've just done a simple check to see if the order amount is greater than 5. If it is greater than 5, then it's a premium product, otherwise it's a general product. And
no, I don't think anyone was saying anything.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I think it's my internet over here. Anyway, moving on. So one of the features that users requested was this JS feature on the on-click for each of these items. So what we have here is exactly that. So now users can add their own custom bindings for each of these features on click and do a lot more than what they were able to before this. So this is one of our biggest changes in the new table widget coming up. Moving on to the last demo that I had. So as you can see on the left, you have the standard rich text editor that renders HTML. And the reason why this, what we have changed. So one of the features that users were requesting was to provide text-based information so that the line breaks and all, they don't get obscured when it comes to rendering HTML. So what we have done is we have provided a feature to provide Markdown input instead of HTML, so that it can be rendered as it is on the rich text editor. So yeah, so now we have two different types of input types for the default value, Markdown and HTML. These are all the features that, these are all the features.
So go ahead.
Yeah, these are all the features that I wanted to demo today. There are a couple of more things that we have done. We have added metadata information in the Firestore plugin. We have also provided the ability to use Firestore in paginations. And we are working on the S3 plugin that will be coming out in the next release.
Awesome.
Right.
So do you guys have any questions on what Abhinav just showed? Or
I have a tiny question on the text editor that you just showed last. Does it mean that the user and the end user, I mean, has the ability to write Markdown code directly? Or like, is there like a toggle button where they can choose between Markdown and the result, or in any case, they see the rich text editor?
Yes, so the rich text editor technically always renders HTML. What we have provided is a way to input the default text as Markdown.
Ah, okay. Okay, perfect.
So what you type over here will always be output as an HTML.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Hey, all right. So now that the demos are done, I would like to talk about some of the top issues that were brought up in Discord last week. One of the issues, many of the issues were related to the modal widget, which we have compiled in this one issue that has all the information of the things that we can improve in the modal widget. And these are the things that we'll be taking up as a project and working on them. So one of the common ones are the modal widget is not resizable. That's something that we need to work on. And there's another issue related to modal widget that came up, but it wasn't actually related to the modal widget, but to forms in general, where the buttons were not able to reset the fields when the users wanted to. So today it works only in the form widget. And we are trying to move that construct out to work on any kind of a widget. That's another feature that we'll be working on. Another important or recurring feature that users have requested was about the migrations of applications between organizations, between instances. I believe we have talked to our users on Discord multiple times about this. So Nikhil, can you elaborate on what we're doing about this particular migration?
Yeah, I think like there have been multiple use cases that have shown up with migration. Sometimes we've seen users who want to migrate from the cloud to self-hosted. Sometimes we've seen users who want to migrate between different self-hosted instances. Sometimes it's actually between different environments, which is like production, staging, and different use cases like that. So we're really thinking about this in terms of version control, where we're thinking maybe we can actually serialize applications to a Git repository, and then just allow users to build their own CI/CD pipelines on top of these. So this will sort of work as a sync to repo as well as a import from repo kind of feature, where an entire application gets serialized to a GitHub repo. And then if you want to move it across instances, you can simply write the GitHub workflows to make sure that they get imported inside the relevant application on your approvals. The reason for sort of doing it this way is that it opens up a lot of future possibilities where you can also have version control in your application, so that if certain changes are made, you can write commits on top of them. You can go back to previous versions, as well as if large changes are made, you can also view diffs between deployments to make sure that you have the approvals to deploy a new version of the application. Just so that, because a lot of times our internal applications are touching databases that have quite sensitive information. So just having those go through a simple Git PR review process will make the entire process much more seamless for users. So that's largely how we're thinking about sort of migrating applications.
That's very cool from my point of view. And do you have any idea of how fast it could be available? I mean, we are talking in months, no? I mean, it's quite a long thing, no?
Yeah, honestly, we just recently thought about how do we sort of go about doing this feature. My guesstimate would be it'll probably be available in the next quarter. We're still in the really initial phases of sort of planning, prioritizing, and we have a bunch of other features in the pipeline as well. But yeah, I'm guessing the next like 3 months or so it should happen.
Cool.
Awesome. Anything else that we heard from the community this week, Abhinav?
Well, these were the top issues that came up over the past week. There were concerns regarding one of our updates were about I think it's called prepare statements in SQL. So when users used to use apostrophes in bindings, that used to lead to an error, and there was a potential of SQL injection. So we are mitigating that by using prepared statements.
Yeah. So I think like over there, there were two things that were happening with our bindings. One was that it allowed users to sort of directly replace the text inside the binding. So this means that in general SQL databases, it allowed you to sort of inject SQL, which was obviously unsafe. The other was that because we weren't sanitizing strings, it led to a lot of error cases where special characters like single quotes were sort of introduced inside the inputs. So we've gone ahead with the prepared statement implementation. In fact, Trisha is here on the call with us, where we've gone out with a simple implementation that's going to be shipped this week. And over the next week or so, we'll actually cover up ground on multiple databases. So today we're going to be shipping with Postgres, but over the next week, we'll have this implementation out for MySQL and other databases as well. Some of the other things we actually managed to do for the community this week were around the Firestore plugin. So the Firestore plugin didn't have pagination out of the box. That was something that we had to implement. So now you can actually iterate over collections of documents, as well as every document inside a collection was not returning certain metadata in terms of the document ID, creation timestamp, things like that. So now you can actually query for the metadata as well in the Firestore plugin. And along with that, the much awaited S3 plugin. So we're also shipping the S3 plugin soon. This will allow users to directly fetch files and read files and update files directly from their S3 repository. So yeah, that's another super powerful feature that's coming out.
I just have a tiny question on this one. I know, I mean, there's already an open feature request to make it work with other S3 providers than Amazon. Just to know if you have any idea if this may come in the next weeks or if not. I mean, it's not a huge deal for me. Just, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like we haven't prioritized that yet. If we see like a few more people sort of really asking for more providers
Okay.
on Amazon, we'll definitely get it prioritized. Yeah, this release was a pretty big one, so we were really focusing on just getting these big ticket items out. But yeah, long term, we definitely want to support all of these different integrations. I think widgets and integrations is pretty much the longest tail in Appsmith. There are just an infinite number of these, and yeah, we're just doing our best to keep up.
Okay.
One of the metrics that we usually use when prioritizing issues like this is to look at the number of upvotes or comments community members have posted on the issue. And if there's enough, then we obviously bump it up in the priority list.
Yeah, that's the best way to get something done in Appsmith. Like just go on the issue, upvote it, comment, say, I really, really want this. Like somebody in the team is going to say, hey, we have to do this right now. So yeah, that's just the best way to do it. Cool. All right. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all we had for the office hours this week.
Just a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Santosh, please.
Yeah. For the rendering, which is the framework you'll use? Is there any standard framework Bootstrap you're using for rendering?
For rendering what?
The applications on the after deployment.
Oh, so we're pretty much written completely on React. That's largely what it is. The components that we use are blueprint components that we styled underneath the hood. We will actually introduce more different design systems and more components in the future, but largely it's a React-based application.
All right, thank
you. Any other questions? We're happy to answer any. Yeah.
Yes, I have quite a question that's a bit wide, so I think that's a good question for now, related to performance. I mean, for now, my app is running on a cheap server, which is like the cheapest option possible. So it is slow, but it kind of makes sense because I didn't put any effort in it. But what is the good way to make it nicer or to make it quicker or smoother? Both, I mean, first question is like for the end user. So like, because I have one form that has like 90 fields and somehow it's a bit slow sometimes. And for me when I develop it. So I mean, now the UI, I mean, for example, each time clicking on this tiny GS button to change the stuff, it's always takes 1 second or something like that. And is there like, if you tell me add RAM and that will solve it, or, you know, change the Docker settings and that will change it? Yeah.
Right. So yeah, unfortunately, in terms of the performance.
Oh, sorry.
Now what we do about, so in terms of performance, we basically go with an iterative mechanism here. So whenever we face any issues with the performance, we try to enhance the performance. The performance that you're talking about is the performance of the browser. So technically, if you have a faster machine, faster, a newer browser, the apps tend to be faster. If you have a slower machine and an older browser, the apps tend to be slower. But the performance has always been an ongoing effort at Appsmith. So we keep iterating over improving performance. We keep releasing better and better applications that would, application that would give you a much better rendering performance on your browser. So if you have any issues with the performance, please do let us know so that we can talk about those particular issues and see if we can do a holistic fix with respect to those performance bottlenecks.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry, I didn't hear fully the inverse of you, Nikhil. And one like related question for me would be like when designing the UI, is there a way, or do you plan to have a way to like turn off some of the auto updates that makes that every click on the GS is always re-evaluating everything, and then, or for example, I mean, sometimes I want to move elements around, but most of the time I don't. I want to play with the properties. So there could be a toggle which I'm doing either or, and then both of them are smoother when I'm doing them. I don't know, like some things like that. Like it's more open question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about the user letting the platform know when to perform evaluations for, so in case the user is only trying to drag and drop, then we can shut off the performance, shut off the evaluations of the underlying data and only work on the drag and drop. Is that the approach that you're suggesting?
Yeah,
That's
for example.
Okay, so that's actually an interesting idea. That's something that we can actually venture into. Nikhil, let's create an issue for this and discuss this with the team and see if this is a viable option with respect to UI building.
Sure. So Luke, just in terms of like, switching off the evaluation, the sort of reason that we don't do it is because whenever you take an action on a property, it does generally affect some part of another widget or some part of the other of the application. But I think like the core problem that you have today is that while making these operations, you're probably seeing a little bit of lag on your system because of the performance bottleneck. And I think that's because we are sort of, there's possibly a chance of re-renders happening, too many re-renders. And I think what we should do is sort of figure out why that's happening and try to make sure that the number of re-renders that occurs is like to a minimum. So I think that's something that we'll actually get into.
Yes, yeah. So we have to get to the bottom of the performance issues that you're having. It might not be the evaluations. It might be just the rendering, as Nikhil mentioned.
Okay, well, maybe, okay, then maybe, okay, I can have a chat with one of you then after. Perfect.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Well, let's actually do a call around this and let's just talk about these performance issues and see how we can actually solve them.
Okay, great.
All right. Cool. Look, do you have any other questions for us today?
I'm looking at my list. Yeah, just one last question, but it's again a question about a feature request, which was the one about like putting more fields on the user list, basically, so that because now the user only have an email address and you cannot modify any name or anything. So I mean, for me, it's like a tiny change, but if I don't have it, I'll have to build myself a user table. So I kind of want to avoid it, but at some point, if it's missing, I mean, I'll have to do it because, yeah, and then.
Yeah, so honestly, that's top of my list for this week. We'll get that out either this week or early next. So that's
perfect. If that's the delay, that's wonderful.
Yeah, this is top of the list. So yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great.
Awesome. Great. Then Akshay, shall we wrap up the session of the office hours?
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for attending, especially Luke. You've been very enthusiastic and your feedback is really appreciated. So yeah, we'll be posting this online. I know I've been saying this for a long time, but this week it'll happen. We're just transcribing some of the stuff we've done before. So you can find this on our GitHub page. We'll also share the links on Discord. So look forward to that. And thank you so much for attending. If you need anything, the Discord is always there. So feel free to pick us. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.